Welcome back to part two of my Batuu styled diorama wall panel. So I am going to show you how I'm going to paint the technique of the archway and the carvings, the door, and some of the greebly panels and everything now. So what I've done is I've done the prep work as you saw in the last video. So I'm just going to come on to carry on today and finish off and show you some techniques about applying this stone effect to the archway. So I'm going to apply some texture now to the archway. I'm going to use two combinations. I'm going to use a light grey. So this has been painted with just a dark acrylic grey, just to give it a base colour. So it can take the paint. So I'm going to use some Model Air light grey, and then over the top of that, I'm going to just do some light brown grey dry brushing, and I'm going to use the dry brushing technique. So just add a bit of this. So I'm using a large brush and a liberal amount of paint on it, and then I'll show you here, get rid of most of that so that I can brush over the top. Applying this as a very, very light texture. So I want to give it two colours. Just dab it in there, but lightly brushing over the top here. So I'm going to go inside of that. In fact, I'll do the top first. And this is just pulling out all of that detail. When I originally made up the panel, it was printed, and then the material, I used the Dremel to give it a lot of texture before then casting. So these are the casted pieces which have then been painted. So you can see it, that when you dry brush it, it brings up all those lovely little details. I spent a while really kind of putting that texture surface on with the Dremel before adding it into the cast. I just need a bit more paint. And then what I'm going to do, this will dry pretty quickly. Might go over it again just to give it a bit of extra colour. And then probably with a wash afterwards, just to bring out some of the shadow areas. Oops, a bit too much paint there. That's better. see now that compared to the back. So if I just show you here, I'm just going to go over this. And then come back to it in a minute. Right, so I've just quickly done the dark grey, and now I'm just going to apply the light grey. So I'll just show you here. So I'm doing this very, very gently and very subtly over the top. So it's just picking out the pinpoints and just highlighting. Using two colour greys really works. You can use the colours as well. I mean, some people put a tone of browns or greens in there, because what that does is it shows kind of a lot of weathering. And obviously this will be in a, kind of, it's based on a planet that's got a twin suns. So obviously that's going to be very bleached, so hence the reason why I'm using the lighter colour here. On the inside, just picking out these sections. Most of this is actually going to be hidden on the inside anyway from the door, but it's always good to have the detail. The outside won't, so you can see the difference there between the two sections I haven't done. So just add a bit more. Really, that's pretty much it, just adding these additional layers on top brings out the texture. Of the stonework that I created. So as I say, this Batuu style door then can go against the wall. So there. So what I've got is I've got a selection of colours here, Model Air, Green Stuff World, and some Tamiya's. So I've got a Field Blue for darks. I've got a blue-grey dusk here, and also the other one is going to be an ocean grey for the base colours. These are all lighter colours that I'm going to apply over the top for the greeblies. So what I've done is I've just mounted these just loosely on this piece of MDF, just so I can kind of have a board to work with. Just stuck it on with double-sided tape so they can be taken off afterwards, and then I can mount them on. So what I'm going to do is, just with a brush, I'm going to put some base colour on a couple of these greeblies now. So this one here, I'm going to apply with a blue. And I'm not too worried because obviously this is going to be a base colour, but just layer it down, and then that's going to dry pretty quick. So I think what I'll do is I'll do this one as well. So I'm just selecting these at random, really. I'm not really bothered about what colour goes where at this stage. Just as long as I've got some flat colour down, I'll do, say, this one here as well in that colour. Make sure I get all the sides. I'm going to use a bit of the Field Blue for this. This one's going to take a bit longer because obviously this one's a bit watery actually. And as I say, these greebly panels are all available from our model store, or if you don't fancy buying direct, we've got them all up on Etsy as well. There we are, so do that. Apply colour. I might have to do a couple of coats with these. This looks a bit watery, this one. And then the other grey, which is this grey, that's the ocean grey. It's actually a lighter colour. You probably can't tell too well on the video. I'm just applying this as quick as I can, really, just to get some detail. I'll do the vent as a light colour as well. And what I'm going to use is various kind of techniques for layering different colours over the top of each one of these sections, and then at the end I will put some washes on and some highlights, and then final part, when they're actually mounted onto the wall, I will kind of apply some kind of weathering to the wall as well, some rain streaks or whatever, and lastly some wiring. So I'm going to show that on the video. Right, come back to that when we have when it's dried. So what I'm going to use next is the Tamiya buff, and I've just put a little bit on the brush here, just very lightly, so that what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take it off with a piece of paper towel. Let's just move this out of the way actually and show you now. So I'm just basically getting rid of that. And what I'm going to do is just lightly feather this and apply a bit of a lighter tone. In fact, I probably need a bit more. There we are. Just to get some detail. Now, these greeblies have got texture applied to them in the 3D print file, so they pick up the paint very well on the surface. But what I'm trying to do here is just highlight some detail as it sits on the wall. And this will be one of the first colours I apply. Obviously I'm going to apply multiple colours. Let's get a bit more. Yeah, that's it. You can see the colour being applied there. I think I'll do the lights. These are just tiny little wall lights. If you really felt like it, you could light them, I guess, with a small LED or SMD at the back. Put it in that little slot there. You know, that little slot there. You can run the light out the back there. There we are. Just put some more of that colour on there. I'm going for this mottled look on this one at least, because obviously it's a unit. It's been on the wall for a while. It's been weathered. There'll obviously be kind of lots of sunlight that's been on the wall as well. So I want to kind of make sure that there. So there's that colour. Now next up I'm going to use the sea blue for these other kind of capacitor units, these greeblies that I created. So actually I'm going to use the same brush, just give it a quick clean. Again, put a little bit of paint on. And then lightly brush over, so it's pulling out a lot of the detail on the pipes and the ridges, and the rest of it is going to be dark. And then what I can do a little bit more is put another colour over the top of that. Let's do this one as well. That's coming together. And then these last ones over here, I'm going to apply a different colour there. Right, got some dark ghost grey. And just going to apply that to this vent panel. Now this vent panel again has got a lot of texture on the sides. So I'm going to pull that up there. You can probably see that now. Just highlight these. That one there. A bit of lightness to it. In fact, I'm not too worried about that one because that's a minor one there. And then this one here. And I've got a very little amount of paint on here, so you can see it's pulling up a good amount of detail on that. And again, just here, you can see half of that. Not a lot of paint goes on. It's picking out those ridge details nicely from the print. as I say, some of these parts are printed, some of these parts are cast in resin, so this part here and this part here are actually cast in resin, and a couple of these smaller pieces. These more detailed ones are obviously printed because it gives better details. So what I'm going to do is just apply a couple of bits here and just bring up some of this capacitor there. There we are. Bring some of that extra paint in. Even applying some of that grey to this one here as well. And I'm going to apply some other bits and pieces. Let that dry, come back to it. So I've got two new colours now. I'm going to apply some Greasestuff dust. So I've got kind of industrial dust, which is a dark colour, kind of grey material. You can't really tell from that, but it's this colour here. And I have white dust. So what I want to be able to do is just apply these. These are liquid pigments, so I'm going to. They're quite kind of. They're not as thick and viscous as others, so I'm going to use a little bit of water on these. And what I want to be able to do is just drop in here and apply these colours. And then with a bit of water over the top, and what that's going to do is it will fall into those cracks, so give it a very dusty feel when it dries. And again around here, especially on this one. I'll do the big one over here, I think, as well. Actually, just with another brush, I'm going to just take a little bit of that off. Apply a bit of that in here, on here. Now I'm going to use the white. You can see it drying already actually on this one. What it's doing is it's just highlighting areas where dust would go. I'm going to do it on that one as well. You can see when you use a lot of the water on it, it just flows into those cracks. It's going to give it a, doesn't matter if the two colours mix really, because at the end of the day I am going for this weathered, dirt, and you know, there's going to be a lot of dust and things around Batuu. So one of the things you would see a lot, obviously, is there's a lot of this dust accumulation. Just take that off a bit. I'm going to let that dry. You can see already that it's coming up and showing. So next really is going to be me applying a wash. So lastly, I'm going to apply some just washes. So I've got a kind of a selection. This is a dark brown one. I've got a black pigment. In fact, let's just put the pigments over there. So I've got some engine grime, some dark brown wash here, and some grey shadow wash, which I'll use to pick out some highlights. And then I've got some pigments here, some black, dark earth, and light rust. So what I'm going to do is this one here is the dark earth, the humbrol, and I've just mixed it with a little bit of water. In fact, I'll put a bit more in there as well. And as a wash, I'm just going to go over here and highlight some of the deeper areas in here. Let those just settle in. Likewise on that, just give them a little bit of a light going over. This one especially, obviously. Put a bit more water on there. So I can pick that out. And obviously the vents, got a grime on those. This last one. Now with the black, again just make sure the pigment's been mixed in. This one I'm just highlighting in a couple of areas at the bottom there, because obviously it doesn't really need a lot in there. Let's fill in that. Some pin spots basically where I just want to pull some of the detail. There. And what I have here is the rust pigment. And again, just a couple of tiny spots really for this. There won't be a lot of rust indication, but it just pulls out some extra detail really with the russet, the orange cover. Just gives it that kind of highly weathered look. A bit too much on there. There we are. Now lastly, I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush for this. I have here, this is dark green dust. So I'm just going to use a little bit, tiny bit in here. Again, just to pull out a couple of areas where I just want a bit of colour difference on the wall, especially around here. You can't really tell too much actually on the blue. Probably on this one you can tell a lot more. And I'm doing these all together because obviously I want them to complement each other. This green's quite useful. It just pulls out a couple of the areas. I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to apply shadow wash pretty much to some of the darker pieces, and then leave that to just apply one last coat of dry brushing, some light application. So I'm going to apply the shadow, this grey shadow wash. It hasn't got the best smell in the world. It's a pretty unpleasant vapour coming out of this bottle. But aren't you glad you're on the other end of this screen? So I'm just kind of applying a little bit of detail in these areas here. And just so I can pick out some of the detail there. Yeah. Just applying a little bit, generally subtly, to this, because I don't want it all over the place. There we are. As I say, not much. Put that back on. Stop that smell. Next thing we're going to do is going to apply just a light feather wash over the top at the end. So I'm just going to use a bit more of the white. Just to highlight now some of the final parts. Let's just get rid of that. Just a bit too much. And I'm kind of brushing down in the direction that I want to go. The way that these components are going to be on the wall. Seems to have taken off too much there. And there you have it. These are pretty much done. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to mount these onto the wall and let that dry, and then I'll show you how I'm going to add those wires and any other little detail, weathering detail to the wall panel. So what I'm going to do now, this is all set, all these pieces are now set on here, and I'm going to apply some wash colours. So this is Light Earth from Green Stuff World and Model Wash from Vallejo, which is Light Rust. So I've put them in the palette here. Just move those out of the way. Got a couple of small brushes, and what I'm going to do is do streaks. So I'm going to take the Light Earth first. This is very much like almost a skin tone flesh colour. So what I want to do is just use a little brush, and I'm going to dab it down here. Create a few streaks, not too many, because obviously I want to be able to show that there's just a little bit of water damage to some of this, and again underneath. I'm just using a little technique with the brush in the corner, obviously. And you can see the effect. I don't want to do too much. I'm going to do the lights over here. See, this is, I don't know if you can see this. Detail underneath, really. It's subtle. Not a lot of detail on here. Show that there's some sort of weathering going on. I'm going to do underneath this. So put some detail underneath. In fact, I'm going to come over here and put it underneath here. And just apply it, let it dry. I think what I'm going to do as well is show that there's a little bit of weathering. In the cracks here. So that the walls of these kind of damaged pieces in the foam board. So I did those, as I say, with the blunt end of one of these paintbrushes, and just kind of created an effect for that. So I'm going to do them over here as well. Let's do some streaks out here. Just adding that detail in. Maybe a bit around here as well. Not going for a lot. And then what we'll do is we'll add the rust effect. So I'll just clean that brush. So I'm going to use the rust. And again, this is a lot darker, so I don't want too much of this, but I just want it to blend in, just to give it a little orange, because this is a lot more orange. But it's just going to pick up that rust tint in that. And putting it on the actual greebly itself as well, actually. I know I put some on earlier, but it's not showing up well. There, just a tiny amount really, so you can see. Show lots of photographs on this afterwards, so you can see the detail. A couple of rust spots in there. There we are. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, me showing you how I created this Batuu style door section and panel, and how I've weathered it and added the greeblies. So thanks for watching, and do subscribe to my channel. If you've got any other queries, please make the comment and I'll respond to your questions in the notes shortly. Thanks guys, see you later.